My first book was in 1997. It was entitled Negrophobia and Reasonable Racism, The Hidden Cost of Being Black in America. And it was really about every one of the issues we're talking about today. So it seems nothing's changed but what year it is. It seems that when we were going through these marches in 2013, 14, 15, Black Lives Matter movement, there was a wash, rinse, repeat cycle that you could anticipate that we were always going to go through. It was going to be, first, let's convene a commission. Then let's hold some public hearings. Then let's have some people vent about their frustration and anger. And then we're going to have a few policy folks say, well, I know, here's some interventions that are going to prevent this from happening again. And they're going to come up with some interventions like body cams. Someone's going to say, there's going to be another set of hashtags. That isn't going to have solved it. Someone's going to say, what about implicit bias training? More hashtags. Somebody's going to say, well, what about de-escalation training? More hashtags. And someone's going to say, well, what about community policing? And here we are looking at a moment in Minneapolis, Minnesota, there the police department had all those interventions. They were one of the early departments to start implementing all those interventions, and it didn't solve the problem. In fact, as was pointed out going in, you had not only the officer who actually had his knee on the neck of George Floyd, but the three others who just stood by. So I think we're coming to the realization that those interventions are, there's not a technological fix. There's not a way to tweak policy and fix this problem, that it really requires some deeper analysis. And that deeper analysis has to do with structural racism, to be sure. The only way we're going to avoid having to go through this discussion again and again is start to address those structural racism issues. But beyond just structural racism, it also has to do with our hearts and minds and our lack of care and concern, empathy for Black lives. Black lives just don't matter is the bottom line here. Black lives haven't mattered since the inception of this nation. A lot of the, as you know, founders were celebrating liberty and democracy and owning slaves. Then we had a cataclysmic race war, 600,000 dead Americans, and we went into Jim Crow. Black lives didn't matter under Jim Crow as much as non-Black lives. And now we're looking at, if you walk down Los Angeles, where I am, you go into Skid Row, you walk down the street in Skid Row, which is probably the fiercest expression of structural violence in America, the largest homelessness encampment in America. Families, everyone, all kinds of folks living there together. I think the trope for our problem is Hurricane Katrina and what you saw in the Ninth Ward with those blacks standing with water up to their necks. And one day goes by, 2 days go by, 3 days go by, 4 days go by. Sean Penn is rowing out up there, handing out fresh water because FEMA still couldn't get its act together. There was not a panic of empathy collectively for those Black lives. When those planes ran into those buildings in New York, though, in 9/11, there was a panic of empathy, and we just helped. We just got it done. Nothing kept us from offering relief to those victims. We can do a lot of things if we have the resources to do them, but right now those resources are being sucked up by our law enforcement departments, right? Here in LA, we have about a $5.5 billion annual budget we're looking at coming out in the coming year. Nearly 54% of that, 53 point something percent of that in the mayor's budget was to go to LAPD, right? And you have those kind of staggering numbers around the country. Now, you take that money out of those police departments, reallocate it, divert it to the kinds of problems we're talking about, and we can have a lot better health outcomes. We can address the unemployment issue, and we can have a lot less violence against Black folk generally, because the violence is often driven by the enforcement of low-level nonviolent offenses. George Floyd is dead today for passing allegedly a counterfeit $20 bill. Low-level nonviolent offenses. When they cut down on the enforcement of stop and frisk in New York, which is why you need a lot of times these police personnel, the crime rate didn't go up, it went down. you have those funds go to other social services, social workers, that sort of thing. Then you can focus the police's attention on what it really should be focused on, and that's solving murders, rapes, violent assaults, robberies. In a lot of cities, those are only being solved at a 40–45% rate. And that's because the police resources are being diverted from investigation and good police work like that and going toward broken windows policing.